What's up guys, Jamie Grace here and welcome back to the Jamie Grace podcast. Thanks for watching on YouTube or thank you for listening on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Today we're going to be talking about a spoken word piece that I did. The short title of it is Truth, but it has a longer title, or maybe it doesn't. Actually, when I'm filming this right now, I haven't titled it, but by the time it's uploaded, it will have a title. And I just wanted to kind of share with you guys the story behind why I wrote that. But before I do want to say a huge thank you to everyone over at Patreon. Thank you so much for being a part of Team Jamie Grace. I am a singer-songwriter, and Team Jamie Grace on Patreon, you guys are the record label, so you're essentially making the music happen, but then also you're helping me make big decisions about the music because you listen to it before anybody else does. So thank you so much. So when it comes to this poem or piece of poetry, Truth, I will say a little bit of how I came to write this. I never really wanted to write poetry because I was always really insecure about it. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved writing poetry because I've loved the creative writing aspect of it, but I never wanted to share that poetry because my sister is very well known for her poetry, and I was always nervous that people would compare us, and I was always nervous that I could never reach her standard or be as cool as her. So people would just be like, oh, well, your stuff's not like your sister's, or oh, your sister said this, or oh, that reminds me of this, are you trying to be like her, blah, blah. And it's hard because behind closed doors, my sister and I don't deal with any of that when it comes to our relationship. Anytime you see me share a graphic online or something like that, my sister probably made it for me. And anytime you see any music content that she shares, I probably produced it for her. And so, or I produced her podcast. And so it's we don't struggle with competition and comparison with each other, but I was worried about what other people would think. And that's such a huge thing that always gets in the way of me doing things. I get in my own way of being afraid of what other people are going to think of me and being well, they might not receive it, or they might think I'm lame, or they might think I'm trying to be like somebody else, so I shouldn't do it. And then I stop myself from doing things. And so anyways, all that to say, Morgan really actually, my mom has been encouraging me, who happens to be my manager as well. She had been encouraging me to do more monologues and do more stuff like that. And I was just so scared. And then Morgan kind of came over and with Grace and Truth one day really kind of fussed at me. And she was just you need to do this. You like to rap, you like to write songs, you like to speak, you need to just write a poem, write some spoken word, and just do it. So I started writing some stuff, and I got scared, and I was well, okay, I wrote it, leave me alone, bye. I don't know if I can share it. I didn't know what to share first. I didn't know how to share it, where to share it. Just so many complexities of fear and anxiety and fear of, for me, it's not even so much the fear of failure. It's just literally this is a part of the fear of failure. It's not even so much oh, what if I do this and it's not successful? That doesn't really scare me. Literally, it's what if I do this and people laugh at me? That's all day. This is the story of my life. And a lot of that is my anxiety. I have a diagnosis of anxiety. A lot of that is, it could be a symptom of depression, but a lot of that is also a personality trait, stuff that I can work on in a different way than I would work on, say, anxiety. So, okay, I promise I'm trying to get to the story of how I wrote this, but this is how I wrote it. It's a lot of thoughts in my brain. I'm trying to compile them all. And so with all of that, I eventually got to the point where I knew I had to come up with okay, I'm going to do this whole spoken word thing. Not I'm not trying to make it my full-time job. I'm not trying to act like I'm a poet. I'm not trying to act like I'm the coolest poet to ever live. No. It's just a way that I want to express myself, that I like to express myself. Let me just write something that what will be the first one that I share. I knew I had to just get to that point. What will be the first thing that I share? And it ended up being this one. I did an event with my sister. My sister is on, we got an invitation to be a part of an event to write Love on Her Arms. And my sister happens to be on the board of the organization as well. And so we were both kind of invited, not because of that, but that's just kind of a part of it. And then we both spoke at this event. And after that event, which I told my sister, it was one of the best things I've ever done. And there was an awesome spoken word artist there, and he was really inspiring. And I told my sister, I was like, man, like, I'm just so inspired. Like, I got to do it. I got to do it. But I just don't know what's going to be the first thing. I don't know what's going to be the first thing. And then a quote started circulating around from fans of mine that were at the event, people that didn't know me that were at the event, and to write Love on Her Arms. They said this at the event. I said from stage, I choose to let truth have the final word. And I was like, and Morgan said to me, that needs to be the first poem that you share. And I was like, okay. And so I don't know if it was that night or a couple of nights, weeks later, something like that. I just kind of stayed up late and I just blurbed out everything that I could think of when it comes to anxiety and personality traits and frustrations and anxiousness. And that's how this poem came about. I've already kind of mentioned this, but for me, the core of this, the central part of this poem, this piece, is the line that says, somewhere between anxiety, depression, and our character flaws. And the reason why that resonates with me is because for me, as someone who, you know, I guess the politically correct way to say it would be to say I struggle with my mental health. Because of that, for most of my life, I have to sit down and go, okay, is this my anxiety or is this a personality trait? Because whether you have a diagnosis of anxiety or not, we all have different things that we can become anxious about and different things that can become challenging. And for those of us with anxiety, we struggle with this sometimes because we're like, okay, is this like a character flaw that I need to be like working on? Or is this a part of my anxiety? Is this a part of like a chemical imbalance where it's not something that I can necessarily work on in the same way that I would a character trait or a character flaw or a personality trait or whatnot? And so I find that to be the central part of this piece because I think in a way, even though that sounds really complicated, I think it actually brings us all together. And it's like, no matter who we are, no matter what we're dealing with, no matter what we're not dealing with, no matter what extent or what level, if it's medical, if it's emotional, if it's personal, if it's spiritual, no matter what it is that we're dealing with, we're all dealing with some form of it. Well, maybe most of us are all dealing with some form of it, of like, I don't know what they're going to think about me, or I don't know if I can succeed at this, or I don't know if I'll be good at this. And we have those lies that are fed to us by other people, or even by ourselves, by our minds, whatever it is, of just like, am I good enough? Will I ever be good enough? No, you'll never be good enough. Okay, fine, I won't be good enough. Okay, then don't even try. And I was thinking about that because I'm often thinking about that stuff, and I'm often defeated, and often my mind is weighed down by those thoughts and those fears and those insecurities and those anxious thoughts. And so I daily have to fight that. And I daily have to find out, okay, how do I not allow this to win? You know, I believe that there are many instances where I can silence that pain, and I can silence that frustration, and I can silence those anxious thoughts. But on the days where maybe that should not be the goal, then what should be the goal? And maybe it's choosing to let truth have the final word. Because it's often times said, well, you need to learn how to get rid of all of the bad. And in the grand scheme of things, we live in an imperfect world. So getting rid of all the bad in the grand scheme is quite a complex concept. So what if we say, okay, the bad exists. My hands are doing a weird thing. Hi, Tourette's. I really have it for anybody that might be watching this. Like, wow, that was rude. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was truth. Ayo, dap. Ooh, I made that weird. So it's like, in the grand scheme of things, what if it's like, yeah, there's a whole lot of bad. And maybe we can't fix all the bad today, but what we can do is we can allow the good to speak louder. And it's like, you know, when you're dealing with a bully at school, maybe it's going to be difficult to try to change that bully and try to be like, yo, bully, don't talk to me like this. Don't treat me like this. Maybe you can empower the situation by letting so much love and kindness speak so loudly that it drowns out the bully, you know. So yeah, that's just kind of where it came from, where that poem came from, where that piece came from. And I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit of the story behind it. So thank you so much for listening to for watching this video, for those of you on YouTube. If you want more videos like this and more spoken word stuff, but mostly music, then you can be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're enjoying this podcast through iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, however you listen to podcasts, thank you so much. Be sure to leave a review, particularly in iTunes. That would be super awesome. We mostly talk about dating and relationships on my podcast, but we also talk about life in general. That's why it's called the Jamie Grace Podcast, because it's whatever it's on Jamie Grace's mind that day. So, yeah, thank you guys a whole lots of much for listening or watching. I really appreciate it. Also, random, if they're still available, you can't really see the full thing, but this shirt that I'm wearing, it's got these really cool sleeves. It is a part of one of the collections over at 91 by Jamie Grace. I would be like shameless plug, or wait, no, what was I gonna say? Oh, I guess it is a shameless plug. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a shirt in our collection, and I'm really proud of these shirts. So I think we've got a few left of them. Really pumped about them. They're really comfy and they've got these cool buttons, but you can't really see the full effect. I might post a picture of something on the screen if you guys are in the market for a new top. Thank you though for watching and listening. You guys are wonderful people. I'll talk to you soon. I love you much. I'll see you soon. I miss you already. Okay, bye.